All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And my this evening, Debbie's this morning or afternoon,
Afternoon. Uh-huh.
afternoon. I'm having a conversation with Debbie Dub Miller from Kansas City or near Kansas City. Yes?
hmm Yes.
Yes. There we
Very
go.
good.
So we're having another chit chat. We haven't had one for ages.
I know. And I don't see you a whole lot, but I'm excited every time I do get to see you to catch up. So
Yes, all of a sudden our meetings don't seem to sort of there aren't as many meetings that we bump into each other. So I just thought it might be a nice idea to have another chit chat. So here we are.
that's right. Yes. I've been following you around on Facebook, so I know that you're still doing well, but it's always fun to talk in person.
It is, it is. I don't mind stalkers, nice stalkers, I mean,
Thank you. Yes. I will stalk responsibly and nicely. So
of course, it's not a horrible, no, I know it's not a horrible stalking. But yeah, so we're open for topics, and I just made a suggestion because I often see your Facebook posts about your windmills over there. So they're more of a pumping water kind of windmill, aren't they? So
yeah.
shall we talk windmills for a little while then?
All right. Yes, sounds good. Yes. Growing up in Nebraska, there were a lot of windmills. Not, I mean, even when I was growing up there, there were less probably than had been, but it's, at least for me, it's kind of the sign of the Midwest and the plains. So I really love that. And I love a lot of the allegories that I can and the stories that I can learn and pass on from the windmills.
Mm,
Um, Windmills are often, especially back in the 1800s, when they were really being used. Yes, they did draw water from deep in the ground, which was super important for all the farmers and the people.
mhm.
Um, but there also kind of became your like for you maybe a lighthouse because uh, traveling wasn't, hop in your car, turn the lights on if it's dark and just go.
Mm.
But town was maybe 10, 15, 20 miles away. So traveling home at night and you had put a lantern somehow on your windmill, it could help direct mom and dad or people, sons, maybe that were out late
Mhm.
back home. So that was always kind of a cool reminder for me. But also, I love the fact that they just stand there. And, a lot of us get to a point in our life where we're thinking, well, hey, I'm just standing here doing nothing. And sometimes that's just a really good season for us to just stand, but actually you're absorbing information, maybe
Mm.
absorbing other things that we hadn't thought about. Maybe we've got time to reconsider other ideas. Obviously, the windmill's not going to pick up and move itself to a better location,
No.
but it's a it. All of us need those quiet times to sit and reflect, and so that's kind of a lesson I've learned also. Also, windmills, just like I say, they stand there and they catch the wind and they use it instead of complaining like, "Wow, it's really windy here; it's blowing everything." And especially when the windmills were a major issue and used, that was a thing that powered a lot of other things. I mean, I'm guessing even there in England, you had clothes that were dried outside, and um, it it was really nice when they could dry quickly and they'd be on and off the lines. But even in the wintertime, when you stick them out and they freeze dry, that was
Yes.
you know
I
that
remember
was
the times, yeah, when the clothes were down and they'd be absolutely, iced up and they would just be solid sheet.
right. I know it's like, okay, this is not going to work very well, but
No.
but we learned that and took advantage of what we had at the time. And so, and then of course you had to tweak, which had become quite the word today,
Mm,
tweak and pivot, and figure out how to get them actually dry
yeah,
and usable for your clothes. Um, so, those are just some things that I love, learn thinking about learning. And, I mean, pretty much there's all kinds of things, lessons that we can learn from things that seem to be just your normal, boring, oh man, it's always been there. It's always
yeah.
going to be the same
We
way.
get
And
complacent, don't we?
we do, yes. And so maybe it's just a way to remind ourselves of things from the past. But
Yeah. So you
yeah,
mentioned, going back to the 1800s. So presumably then some of the windmills would, so presumably so you'd have sort of like homesteads and things which are still in existence today. And you'd have a borehole presumably would be, however many feet down, and then the windmill
right.
presumably would pump up the some of the water for the family that lived there.
Right. Yes, exactly. Uh-huh. Yeah, even my farmland that I have in Nebraska, we've had from since 1856. And so
Wow.
I don't remember seeing, you know, a lot of people back in that time in my area actually built homes out of sod, which is just hunks of dirt with the grass on it and
Yeah.
then piled up. I never did see a home like that for my family, but I
Hmm.
know that was probably what it was like, or
Yeah.
possibly.
Well, they're going back. They're experimenting in several places, I think, around the globe,
Hmm.
of houses that are more sustainable, and you can make them out of mud and straw, and put them together, and they become pretty sturdy houses.
Right, yeah, and they were. I mean, I remember I read a lot about how, um, as we're often talking about how it helps the environment because the home was dark, yes, but it was also temperature controlled was often a lot easier because
Mm,
of especially the thickness of the bricks, the mud that you made. So
yeah, yeah.
that
And
was.
yeah. It is interesting, we're going back to the windmills. So, were there particular shapes of the blades, length of the blades that went with a particular family or a district, or were they all much or much a muchness?
I think pretty much they were pretty much the same everywhere. I One of the differences would have been the height of them, um,
Right.
depending on if I know when we lived in Wyoming, it's a really windy area, and so the windmill wouldn't need it to have been so tall
Mm,
above ground to catch the wind. But I'm not sure about. But then you've got to deal with the depth of it, and so it might have needed to be some way to equalize the depth, and I'm not
yeah.
sure about all of that. But
Mm,
for the most part, most of them, especially the really old ones, are made out of wood, and they were like a four square on the bottom up to the peak,
yeah.
and then you had the blade up at the top. But
Mm,
yeah, they're pretty much uniform that here at least. But then, then you go to Europe and you get some for us, I'm like, this is not really a windmill. But it's their
yeah.
version of a windmill. And so it's interesting
It is. It is.
see the
And
difference.
yes. I mean, in Holland, they have the windmills that are used as pump houses
Mm,
on the canals, and up in the Norfolk Broads, which is not very far really from me. They have much the same. So they're a windmill that put on a pumping station. The blades would be a lot bigger.
right.
So rather than have like yours, it's got a great big tower, and then you've got the blades at the top. This one would be a building, and it would have it would be sort of like some of them are sort of tapered, so it'd be wider at the bottom and then slightly tapered at the top with a sort of a round top, and then the blades on the front. But the blades would come down on the over the front, so it would be come down, and they would be like a cross, and then there would be a way that they would be able to turn the blades on, so they would then be able to pump the water. But also over here we have windmills that are in flour mills, and they grind the grains of wheat to make flour.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We have windmill, or we don't, I don't think we have grits mills that were with windmills, but we have a lot of them on actual rivers at a spot where the water is flows over the,
Ah, yes.
and so it can do that too. So it's
Yes, so
interesting
some of
though.
them had a wheel, a water wheel,
Uh-huh.
and that would so the water wheel would be rather than a windmill, it would then have mechanisms going from there, and that would sometimes be the same, and it would create flour
Right. Yeah.
or electricity for a house, perhaps.
Right. Yes. We have a lot of those kind of power sources here now in the United States where the a
Right.
water powered is
Yeah.
used to light for lights and electricity. So,
Right.
wow.
And is that sort of like the older style homes, like a homestead, or is that just normal?
Actually, they built a lot of big dams, water
Yes.
dams, and used that. And it's, I mean, I guess it would be considered older, but it was probably older like in maybe World War II era,
Yeah.
around that
Hmm.
time. But there's a lot of that that's still being used today for metropolises. And it's
Yeah.
interesting with our power sources, they're here in this state, but they actually power that other state up over there. So I'm not
Right.
really sure how how many areas that
Yeah.
one power station could do, but a lot could be
I would
done.
have
So
thought, yes, because you've got the way that the water comes from a dam, and I suppose the power is, I mean, where it runs. Yeah, I'm not sure how dams work, because dams here we would have a reservoir which would give a reservoir of water. So
right,
there must be some way of creating, I don't know, some sort of power from that. And
right,
then you see some dams that sort of release water out, don't you? Where they have these great big enormous gates, and you see the water coming out of the wall.
right,
Um,
yeah. And
yeah,
I would guess that's part of, I mean, maybe you can control it at some point so that that becomes the power.
yeah,
And then I know in some of the areas, sort of like where Santa Papa John lives, there's
yeah.
water uh, dams and reservoirs, but sometimes in the spring they have to release water from there, and so that water ends up down here in my area on
Mm,
some of the rivers. So, but it can be used for the power or then just watering crops as well. So.
yeah. And do you have like for the crop fields, presumably, um, do farms there have like reservoirs, or do they use water for the to water the crops from boreholes? Or do they use a different way of doing it?
Some of the farms and ranches farther west, I think, would do like the
Right.
borehole watering system. In fact, when I flew my father-in-law and mother-in-law from Wisconsin to Arizona, one of the things that intrigued Dad was the fact that it looks basically like a quilt that he flew over because the circles, I mean, there was circle, 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 circle,
Hmm.
and it would maybe had different things, but are boreholes and then used in like a circle irrigation system at
Ah,
the same
yes.
time. And
Yeah.
so that was really interesting to Dad. In Wisconsin, they get plenty of water, just rain, and so they don't irrigate of any sort. And even where I grew up in Nebraska, we didn't irrigate, but a lot of
Mm,
places a little farther west, mid Nebraska area and west would do the irrigation with circles or different ways. But
mm,
yeah, it would be used that way. So
mm. It's interesting, isn't it? How the sort of they adapt the resources that they have. I mean,
right,
I'm presuming that there are boreholes here. You can go so far down, 2, 3, 4, 500 feet, and you're going to get some water that goes through all the core rock and so on. So I'm guessing
right.
the same here as over there because it's all one globe, isn't it? It's just in
That's
a
right.
different place.
Yes, right. And we just need to attach it to Kathy Weaver's water system, and
Yeah,
then it's
yes.
and it's good to drink and everything else. So
And we would have mega healthy um people and animals and
that's right.
everybody.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes. My goodness me.
Definitely.
Wouldn't that be something? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be so
Yeah.
fun.
But yeah, it is fascinating how because I watch I'd like to be able to watch sort of more recent episodes of Homestead Rescue.
Hmm.
Um, and I just love watching that. And they have families that go and live in the sort of the forests or wherever. I mean, some families go into the middle of a desert. I mean, why would one choose to live in the middle of a desert? But each to their own.
Right.
And then they would then bring in these great big enormous drill rigs to drill down they move out there. Well, how much water have you got? Well, we've just got this small, well that how long's that gonna last you? Um, Not long.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's quite fascinating, the how prepared people are and what sort of lifestyle, whether you live in a brick house or whether you live in a house that, you build yourself on a homestead. I mean, it's quite different living, isn't it, as well? It's quite a lifestyle choice.
Right. Yeah, it really is. And it's always interesting to me too. A lot of places here, even in this area, they replicated wherever their family came from.
Mm,
So we have areas here that are very Czech areas, and their homes similar to what they would have, their families would have had there on the continent and other
right.
areas.
Mm,
So yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes they had to adapt even that plan to whatever material was available here instead of maybe what was
yeah.
common or normal use there in Europe. But yeah,
Mm,
it's interesting to keep learning about all those kind of things,
it is.
and also to help encourage those people to remember their heritage, because
Yeah.
they really, learning, when you forget your heritage altogether, you lose a lot of
Yes.
not just the past, but what could have been for the future. So,
Yeah. Yes, because your heritage is everything. It's where you come from, isn't it?
right, yeah,
So if you come from, perhaps the Sioux Indians or whatever tribe it might be, you need to keep that you need to keep that alive, don't you? Because that's where you're from, and there's all sorts of things that go with that, don't they? So you have, rituals and perhaps they do particular tribal dancing for particular welcoming somebody and weddings and all sorts. It's just a totally different culture within a culture, isn't it?
it is, yes, and it's good to remember those kind of things and
Mm.
keep them alive for the
Yeah.
future generations. So, yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. And yeah, this might sound a bit odd, and maybe an ignorant question on my part, but where you live and where you grew up, Nebraska, were there indigenous people in those areas, or are there still indigenous people in those areas?
There were, and there still are some areas not far from where I grew up that have different kinds of Indian families, Indian tribes areas. So yeah, um, and
Mm,
my family wasn't part of that, but I know they were there in the same area. So
mm,
yeah, it was interesting. I think my ancestors that came into Nebraska in 1856 were some of the first people into Nebraska. So that was, I'm sure they had to deal with making friends with and make building
yeah.
relationships like we all do even today. Um, one of I one of the family stories was that my ancestors had come from the area in Kentucky where Daniel Boone's home was, and that he came to Nebraska and was hunting on our farmland in Nebraska when Daniel Boone was in his 80s. So, um,
Wow.
you know, people were getting around a lot farther than I actually thought of back in the day. But
Mm,
that was great to, build those relationships and
yeah.
keep them going through a lot of their lives. So,
Yes. Well, they used to have the horse caravans, didn't they? So, the horses and the sort of the caravan style
right,
carts and carriages that they had, not perhaps of sort of majestic form, but of practical form. And, the nomads of yesteryear used to travel hundreds of miles, didn't they, from, place to place.
right,
And I think there probably still are.
right. Yeah. Now they just fancy it up and cost a lot more than, at least
Yes.
I'm assuming. But
Yeah,
yeah, there are some people that are still constantly moving around like that. So,
there
yeah,
are. There are. And there are nomads, or modern day nomads, of course,
right.
working here, there, and everywhere, where there might be, a Wi-Fi signal. In those days, I suppose it depended on whether somebody could read and write. And how far somebody then took the message that was written, whether it was staged, so they went on a particular stage of X amount of miles, and then they'd meet somebody else, and then it would be passed to them, and so on. So I'm guessing through time the crude form of slow mail to our form of it's quite fascinating. It sort of conjures up thoughts of how they used to do it in
Right.
yesteryear, and probably some people still do.
Yes, right. So, well, and getting back to the mail thing, I mean, here in our area is right where the Pony Express was, and so the
Yes,
big
of
deal of
course.
getting from here to the west coast of the United States and how many days and how many young riders took that
Yeah,
mail. Sometimes we now are joking that it could have gotten from point A to point B a lot faster on the Pony Express than it does today. However, I'm
mm,
sure that's maybe not true, but
yeah,
you, we've you've mentioned a few times that mail is still kind of a question mark in even some countries still today. So that's
mm,
sad that
yeah,
it's still a problem or it is a problem again. And so that
it
makes
is.
what you do with your card business so
Mm,
extraordinary that you can help families there in England get a special note to them without
yeah.
all the hassle.
Yeah, I mean it makes you think, yes, because of the pony mail, as you say. So that used to sort of go across wherever. I mean the priories and to major towns, and well, they obviously didn't have big cities back then. But yes, you had the Pony Express, which went on for a number of years, didn't it?
It
So
did, yeah.
it's
So yeah,
yeah. It
that
it
was fun
just
and
it yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it? The
right.
windmills and helping people with water, and you've got and again horses come into it. The caravans, the nomadic people used to use horses and their cat carts and everything, and then the
Right.
Pony Express. Horses and animals have had a big part, haven't they, in
Yes.
people's lifestyles.
Right, yeah, for pretty much, I don't know, years and years, centuries maybe.
Yeah,
So yeah,
probably yes. Yeah, because
yeah. So
you had pigeon mail as well.
right, yeah. Well, and even at some point they would use just their dogs. Even in Alaska, they talk about remembering the history of using their dog sleds. So um,
Yes.
dogs,
Yeah.
cattle, horses, all kinds of animals have always played a part of
Yeah.
helping us do do life. Whether it's pulling those grit mills so that they can grind the corn and the wheat, or
Yeah.
whether it's the water efforts that are used to grind those kind of things. So, yep, we have
Yes.
have always had a lot of things to help with us, which is great because,
Yeah.
wow, I mean, and the Indians would have pounded the corn forever to get it down to a usable size. And so
Yeah.
help is always beneficial.
Yes. Yes. Gosh, it's fascinating, isn't it? Sort of talking about yesteryear and then bringing it to the modern day. Some of it hasn't changed, and some of it's changed radically. But
Right.
yes, it
Yeah.
is fascinating. Well, once again, we've sadly run out of time. We could go on forever talking about pony mail and sleds and all the rest of it. But yeah, thank you so much. It's I've learned a bit about windmills. And you growing up in Nebraska and how you used to grow up there and what you remember. It's learning a little bit about one another, I think, over time, isn't it? And that's how you sort of build these relationships up, which is brilliant.
It is. It's great to remember and to learn about other people too, and
Yeah,
how what we knew was useful, maybe or useful but different in their lives
yeah.
in the same kind of learning thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's been fun.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. You're this afternoon, Debbie, and I hope our listeners or watchers would like to listen into the stories that you have told and I've added into. And if you enjoy this, please do subscribe and comment on any videos that you would like to care to watch on my channel. So thank you so much, Debbie, and we'll speak with you soon.
All right. Thank you so much for the invitation. I've loved the time. Thank you.
Good, thank you.